That's a great question. And what I have to say is that real estate investing, it can be a great vehicle for wealth building.
As far as building wealth, and I think in our community, there's not enough emphasis on wealth building. We know about getting money, but when we talk about building wealth, this is a whole different animal.
Renting as opposed to flipping, is it a difference to you, or you just chose to go that way, or do you do both?
Building legacies, bridging the wealth gap, teaching financial literacy, and providing you with the keys to success. Nothing is off the table. Building legacies, one brick at a time.
Welcome to the Building Legacies podcast. Once again, we are back. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. This is our 6th episode, and we have the pleasure of interviewing a professional, a woman of great professional talents, a good friend of mine. I haven't seen her in a little while, but we got mutual respect for one another, and we're going to scream Murdoch all day long. That doesn't stop, in the BX all day long. But I want to thank you, Bridget, for sharing your time with us. And just to give a quick little bio about, Bridget Smith, she's a full-time real estate professional with over 10 years of real estate experience. She started out in 2008 with her own capital, and she started several companies and built an impressive portfolio of cash flow assets. And she is personally owned and managed and been involved in 60 plus real estate deals. So that's impressive in and of itself. And I just wanted to give them a quick little bio about you. But I want to give you the floor real quick before we go into anything, Bridget, and let our viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Stan. And like you said, I'm a full-time real estate investor. So I currently live in New York City. I'm a native of New York City. However, I do invest in the state of North Carolina. I reside in New York with my husband, my 2 children. I am a former registered nurse. Thanks to the wonderful world of real estate investing, I'm no longer practicing. And that's just pretty much a little bit about me. So I'll get more into, my story once, the show starts.
Okay. So you done with the nursing, huh?
I am done. I am a former sleep-deprived nurse. I worked the graveyard shift, the overnight shift, sleep-deprived. So I gave that up. Yes, so I'm following my dream now. Yes. That's
a beautiful thing. And that shows how well investing can be in real estate if you put your mind to it, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. You want to ask the questions, E?
Yes. Again, thanks, for blessing us with your presence on our podcast. We truly appreciate that. Like you said, you're from New York, from the Bronx, and that in and of itself requires a moment. We all from the Bronx here, salute to the Bronx.
Yes, New York City.
And funny story, I remember being in North Carolina myself. This was in the 90s. I was a teenage guy. And I remember telling someone, I'm from the Bronx. And the first thing they said was the burnt down Bronx. And I was offended. You know what I mean? But the Bronx back on the map, salute to the Bronx. Thanks again, for blessing us with your presence. Now, I know you say you're a former nurse, and thanks to real estate allowed you to, venture into that world and have success. What initially drove you to real estate? What was it about real estate that you say, you know what, I'm going after this full time?
Right. So that's a great question. And what I have to say is that real estate investing, it can be a great vehicle for wealth building. That is, if it's done correctly. So there became a point in my life where I had to make a decision. I had to choose between making an income, which was nursing, or going after my dream, which was real estate. So I decided to go after my dream. So as I stated, I am a former registered nurse. I worked in the healthcare industry for over 20 plus years. I started out as a certified nursing assistant while I was going to nursing school. I later became a licensed practical nurse, and then I became a registered professional nurse, and I obtained my BSN. And so it was exciting. It was a new adventure for me. I was a young nurse. I was helping patients. I was saving lives, and I was excited about nursing. But then it became a point in time where it became monotonous. I started to feel unfulfilled. I was doing the same thing night after night. And I would look at some of my superiors, some of my nursing supervisors, director of nursing, assistant director of nursing, and they were all working so hard. They were working 2 jobs, even 3 jobs. They were sleep deprived. They was tired and exhausted. And they was working way beyond age 70. You know, they had reached retirement age, but they still couldn't retire. And they were coming into work. Some of them couldn't half walk. And I was like, Bridget, this is not going to be your reality. You know, I was not going to continue along that trajectory. And like I said, you know, they were higher up on the pole. They were nursing directors, supervisors, and they still was having a hard time making ends meet. So I said that was not going to be my trajectory. So I started just investing in my education, self-development. I would read magazines, money magazines, Kiplinger. That was many years ago. Anything that I can get my hands on regarding self-development, money management. And I started indulging in that. And one of my colleagues, Robin, she's a nurse, and she invited me to my first real estate event. And so I went to that event. That event was in Manhattan at the Jacob Javits Center. And one of the guest speakers there was Robert Kiyosaki. And he's the author of a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And for those of you who have not read that book is a game changer. It's a must read. So she was there. She was all excited. I didn't understand why she was so excited. He was selling his products. He had a game called the Cash Flow Quadrant. And I didn't understand why she was spending hundreds of dollars, on this game. So nonetheless, I followed along and I purchased the book. And like I said, the book is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this book was an aha moment to me. So in the book, he talks about having 2 dads. So we know in reality, no one has 2 dads, but he referred to it as his 2 dads. He had a poor dad, which was his biological dad. And his biological dad was college educated. He had a college degree, and he worked over 30 plus years at the same job. And despite such, he was unable to build wealth. Whereas his best friend dad was considered his poor dad. He did not go to college. He didn't have a college degree, but he understood the principles of money. And he was able to build wealth over time. And he became wealthy by investing his money in real estate. So that was an aha moment and a takeaway from that book for me. Another takeaway from that book where he talked about the difference between assets and liability. And most of us, especially in our community, we invest in liabilities. We don't know about assets.
Absolutely.
So, right, absolutely right. So we'll take our money, we'll get paid, we'll go buy those new kicks, the Jordans, whatever it is, and we're buying liabilities. But in this book, he talked about taking your money and investing it in assets. Assets are things that put money into your pocket. So your money is working for you without you actually having to go to work and work for money. So he talks about investing your money in assets, and rental real estate, if done correctly, is considered an asset. So you can let that asset now buy your liabilities. So that was another takeaway from the book. And the other takeaway that I got from the book, he talked about paying yourself. We all want to know how we're going to get money to start investing. So he talks about paying yourself first. And I didn't understand that concept at first. I'm like, how do you pay yourself first? So the majority of us, what we're accustomed to is, when we get paid, we get our income, we pay our bills, we pay our mortgage, our rent, our car note. And then at the end of the day, we have nothing left over. So we don't get to save. What he said, we do the reverse. You take, when you get paid, you take your money and you put a certain amount aside. And you're going to put that into your freedom account. And then over time, systematically, it will build up. And so this is how you can have your capital to start investing. And people may say, well, I don't even have enough money to pay my bills. But if you start paying yourself first and whatever's left over, you pay your bills with that, you're going to find a way to, that shortfall that you're going to find a way to pay your cell phone bill. If you got to go get a side gig, you got to do an extra hour of overtime, you're going to find a way to pay that bill because you don't want your lights cut off, but you may not find a way to save. So I started implementing those principles that I learned in the book. And this has been a game changer for me. So that's, why I chose real estate investing.
Wow. That's good. Go ahead, E.
Actually speaking, I actually read that book as well. I read it in like 2006, and it was an eye opener for me as well, because his approach to just his views just toward life in general was different than a lot of the way we're taught. Like, and now, my household, my mother, bless her, I love her to death, but her thing is, go get you school, job, tired, let's go sit down somewhere. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
and,
Yes, exactly.
and that's what the way they were taught. So it's generational, and it makes sense in their mind. But with reading that book, it shows you it's a different way to do this thing. You know what I mean? Like, as far as building wealth, and I think in our community, it's not enough emphasis on wealth building. Now, we know about getting money, right? You understand? So that's the thing you hear: get money, get money. But when we talk about building wealth, this is a whole different animal, because this requires asset accumulation. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so you could get jobs and make money, but you have to know what to do with that money.
Exactly.
And place it into these assets that grows in value over time. And it's something that, as this podcast, we stress highly: legacy building. Now, with these assets, you could pass these on along to your children. And then also with the asset, you're able to leverage it to get other assets. There's so many things you could do with it. So that book for me as well was just a paradigm shift for me. It just changed my whole way of thinking in regards.
Right. And just to piggyback on what you had to say is that when I first started my nursing career, I was young. I was in my 20s. And so, I was making decent money. And so, like, on my days off, the way that I treated myself is that I went shopping. I went and bought me things that I really didn't need, So I'm like, okay, I worked hard all week. Let me go treat myself. So I was buying things that I really didn't need. So I was spending money that I didn't need to spend. I didn't know exactly what to do, with the money. And so we're not taught how to take our money that we work for and take it and invest our money so that our money can start working for us. But we don't have to get up every day and go to a job and work for money. Our money is getting up and going to work for us. And that's when you start to acquire, time freedom.
That's right. That's right.
I agree. Excuse me. That book, it transformed me as well. I love the book, the concept of it. And I've noticed even today, I don't care if it's the closest people to you or the farthest people from you. They can't grasp that concept. The concept of financial freedom, or the concept of leveraging good assets, over your liabilities. And I find that troubling, because, it's almost as if it's like we're continuing to go generation after generation of being consumers and workers. And so I still find that hard to this day. But I wanted to ask you, why did you choose North Carolina mostly for your investments as opposed to New York? What was the difference there and made you go to North Carolina?
Well, that's a great question. And when I initially was looking to start to invest, I wanted to start in my backyard, which is New York City. That would just make things much easier for me. But as I began to start to do my market research, I seen that I was priced out of that market. As you know, New York City is an expensive real estate market. So it was really hard for me to cash flow. So since that option didn't work, I started looking for other avenues. So I chose North Carolina because my parents, they're actually from there. This is an area that I would frequently visit, and I had family there. So I started looking at real estate in the market of North Carolina. Another thing that I did like about the market when I started doing my market research is that it's a landlord-friendly state, and that's really important when you're a real estate investor. So in New York, you can have a tenant reside in your property and not pay rent for years before you can get them out. That doesn't happen in North Carolina. Wow. So it's a landlord-friendly state, so you can get a non-paying tenant out of your property like within 30 days or less. And the other thing is that the prices tend to be more friendlier in North Carolina versus New York. So it was easier for me to cash flow, meaning that after I pay all my expenses, I have some cash left over to put in my pocket. So that's the whole purpose of investing, to obtain that cash flow. So it was easier for me to cash flow. And then there's great demands for rentals there as well too. And over the years, I've seen a lot of appreciation when it comes to rentals. So the rental rates have gone up tremendously. And like I said, it's a great demand there. I believe over like 40% of the population in North Carolina are renters versus homeowners.
Oh, okay. So North Carolina, you found to be economically feasible for you to see your return. And so renting as opposed to flipping, is it a difference to you, or you just chose to go that way, or do you do both?
Well, I have yet to flip a property. So since I started investing, every single property that I purchase, I'm what you call a buy and hold investor. So I've kept it. So I haven't flipped any properties, not saying I won't flip anything in the future, but flipping is quick. So, you flip that property, you sell it, you get that profit, but then you don't have that cash flow, coming in. So I'm investing for cash flow. So I'm looking for streams of income to come in continuously. So as long as I have that property and it's managed right, I have that cash coming in each and every month from that property. Whereas when you're flipping, there's a lot of variables that can go wrong. You got a hold period. Maybe the property may not sell when you want it to sell. You have holding costs. You may calculate your profit to be, say if it's $30,000, but because the property didn't sell when you thought it was going to sell, or it didn't sell for the price, now that profit of $30,000 now might be like a minus $5,000. So there's so many different variables when it comes to flipping. So you really need to know what you're doing. But for me, I'm a buy and hold investor. So I'm looking to create generational wealth as well too, and maybe pass on some of these assets, to my children and future generations. So that's where you really tend to really build your wealth, with the buy and hold, holding on to these assets, for, indefinitely, if you can. Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also with flipping versus, buy and hold, a lot of people don't take into consideration the tax aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Right. When you flip that property, right, you're exposed to a higher tax break versus when you buy and hold. It's so many more tax advantages. You know what I mean? Even if you want to trade up, you got the 1031 exchange and things of that nature where you could preserve your wealth versus, and then also with flipping, because I got friends that flip, so they flip homes and they tell me, just the ups and downs of, and the taxes was one, and you creating another job for yourself. The idea is to free up your time, right? And
yes.
When you're flipping the property, you might have some managers there as well, but you got to manage the managers. So it's like you created another job. So it's some quick income, but then you're exposed to maybe a 30% tax on that profit.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So that versus buying and holding is an issue too for most investors.
Right.
When they're making a choice, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And to piggyback on that too, so depending on when you're flipping, depending on how long you hold the property. So if you hold the property less than 12 months, it's considered a short-term capital gains tax. So you're going to pay a higher tax rate versus if you hold on to the property over a year, you'll pay less taxes. It's considered long-term capital gains tax. So you have to take all that into consideration. You got to factor that into your profit margin. And most people don't. They just look at what they purchased the property for, how much they put it into, and what they're going to sell. But they don't look at all the other costs associated with that. You have to get a realtor. You have to pay a realtor fee. You have holding costs. You have taxes. You have insurance. The risk of vandalism if the property is sitting there vacant. So there's a lot of factors that can go into play when you're flipping.
Right.
Not saying that you can't make money now, but you got to know what you're doing.
So you're open to both. You mainly do buy and holds, but you're open to open.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I wouldn't flip a property. I have yet to flip a property in the 10 plus years that I've been investing. But, it just comes with more risk. And like I said, I'm more so of a buy and hold investor, but I wouldn't object to a flip if, I can find a deal that I don't want to keep long term and I can make a quick profit. I would take that profit and put it into another investment property.
I like that strategy, buy and hold. I don't want to have to manage the managers. Like, I'm trying to find a way that I can sit back as well. But
passive income when you're
Absolutely.
buying. Yeah, passive income.
Absolutely. So you have another question you had for her?
Yes, and now right now we on the topic of flipping. I know in your I seen your previous interview with the podcast you've done, and I know y'all spoke about sometimes just renovations. Sometimes you buy a distressed property, may have to do a little renovating before you put a tenant in it. Now my question is like with contractors, right? I know that's a nightmare for a lot of investors, particularly
Yeah.
the, people that flip homes. These contractors, they're not reliable, dependable. They'll walk away on the job. If they get a better paying gig up the street, they'll abandon your project. You know what I mean? I've just heard the nightmares. I mean, so I know that's contractors are vital just to have on your team. You know what I mean? So what has been your experience? I mean, when you're doing your renovations with contractors, what has been the experience with that?
Yeah, so I have experienced that, and to people who are going to let that stop you, fear can be very paralyzing. So don't let that stop you. I've encountered where I had contractors rip me off. Like you said, they opened up the floors, they wanted more money, and they walked away from the job. So you kind of find a way to work around that, but don't let that stop you for going after your dream. So what I do is, I try and get 3 bids from contractors. I always tell you to get 3 different estimates. And sometimes it's not always best to go with the cheapest person. You want to go with the person that's more reliable. You want to look at their work ethic. You want to see the work that they've done. You want to get references as well, too. I had experience where I had a gentleman and I thought that he was trustworthy. He was a pastor or minister, something in the church. And, on the contract, he had all these Bible verses. And I'm thinking, okay, hey, he's trustworthy. So, and that was like one of my first deals that I was ripped off. And I was devastated, by it because he took my hard-earned money. I've had so many sleepless nights of working and obtaining this money. And he took it and he walked away. And, I did, try and pursue him to go after him. I wasn't able to get that money, but these are all lessons that you learn. This is your education, so you're getting your real life experience, your education, and you look at the situation, you see, how can I improve? How can I not let that happen to me again? So things you may want to put into place, you may say, okay, well, you want to have timelines of when the work is going to be completed. You want to have drawers. You don't want to give them half the money up front or most of the money when you're buying materials and all they're doing is the labor. So why are you giving them all this money for labor up front? So you may have it where you complete this amount of the project, then I'm going to give you a drawer. When you complete that part, I'm going to give you another drawer. You want to make sure that they are licensed, so that, something like that happens, you can go after them. So you want to put things in place to try and protect you. And it's just pretty much, I would say, is like the course of doing business. So I've had plenty of contractors rip me off. Since I started investing in real estate, it's only one contractor that I'm still with to this day after 10 years that I found to be reputable. And this is my HVAC guy. But everyone else, I had to go to like a slew of plumbers. I had to go to a slew of electricians, carpenters, because unfortunately in this world, people get greedy with money and they don't do what's right. But like I said, too, don't let that stop you from, going after your dream, because that first time when I got ripped off, had I let that stop me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So it's always important to have like a cushion. You want to have reserves for things like this so that you can see how you can, recover from that. But you want to just do your due diligence as much as you can with these contractors. At the time when I was having a lot of my work done, I wasn't able to be on site. I was living in New York. I was working. So I didn't have the time freedom to kind of like overlook some of these projects. In this day and age now, we have the iPhones. You can ask for pictures. You can ask for videos. Before they put the floor down, I had a contractor put down ceramic tiles flooring for me, and he didn't put down any backer board. So a couple years later, that whole floor had to be taken up, and redone over. And so like now, since I have the time freedom and my husband as well, too, we do travel to North Carolina quite frequently. When we have projects, underway, we like to try and be on scene to actually kind of see what's going on and then see that the project is being done right, to safeguard our interests. So this is what we're doing now. But in the beginning, we couldn't do that, so you just kind of find a way to make it work. But just know that these things, can and will happen to you. Just got to do what you can to protect and safeguard, your interests. So like I said, don't let it stop you, because I hear people say, oh, how you invest in real estate? You have tenants there, they'll damage your property. They don't pay the rent. You're going to have these trials and tribulations. And I tell them too, when you go to work at your job, your supervisor's getting on your last nerves and you're behind and want to fire you. You get up and go to work every day, right? Although you don't like that job, they getting on your last nerve. You want to tell them I quit, but you still get up and go to work every day. So it's the same thing here. When these things happen, you got to find a way, you understand me, to get through it and continue,
I like that. And just for our viewers and for me too, when you use the term draw, I like to know if you can explain that just a little bit better. When you say draw, what does that mean exactly?
Sure. So, you're going to definitely want to go into a contract. You want to have everything written down, with your contractor, and you want to have your scope of work. Like, what is he going to do? If he's going to take down the wall in the kitchen and then he's going to put up sheetrock, so you want to have, the line items detailed of what it is that he's going to do. I mean, even, probably the paint color that he's going to put on the wall. And then when he does a certain part of the work, you'll say, okay, well, when you complete this part here, when you put up this wall, we're going to give you, if it's $5,000. So we'll call it a draw. So when you show me that you've completed that amount of work, then you're entitled to getting $5,000. So when we say draw, meaning that, you don't want to give them all the money or half the money up front. You want to see them completing the work. And as they make progress, you give them, the draw, the money.
Understood. But it's almost like we think of draw, think of withdrawal. You know what I mean? In a sense where it's just short for withdrawal, would mean in that, okay, if you got a budget for $30,000, use that example. We say at this particular point, like she mentioned, you complete this work here, then you'll get a draw, or you'll be able to withdraw X amount, and then and that's a great strategy, because if you pay that contractor up front, but like you said, sometimes the human being, right? Sometimes that money, he say, listen, I got the money already. He see it right. So he gonna look at you like you crazy if you even give him them. He probably, oh, you gonna give me all of this up front? Like, you know what I mean? So, and that's a good strategy. Draws. So this incentivizes him.
Okay. Exactly.
You want the rest of this money? Do what you have to do. The money's right here for you. You know what I mean? But you will get it in increments based upon your work and what you can. So that's an excellent strategy.
Yeah. And these contractors, they may say, well, I do all this work, and, you may have some people who rip them off and don't pay them. And that may be the case too. But they do know that if they do work on someone's property and that homeowner does not pay them, they can put a mechanical lien on that person's property. So they do know that they have that sense of recourse, where they can put a lien on the property.
Okay. So I want the viewers and audience to know that you particularly are a certified licensed real estate agent in New York and North Carolina, correct?
That is correct. So when I left my job 5 years ago, this was in 2018. So I truly love real estate investing. So I decided to go into real estate full time. So I obtained my real estate license in New York City. And so I do transact there. I do help sellers and buyers, purchase properties in New York City. And then I later obtained my real estate license in North Carolina. And I did so because a lot of the deals that I do purchase, they're on market. So instead of just giving, that commission completely to the realtor, why not get licensed and I can get a part of my own transaction? So it has allowed me to share in the the fee that the realtor get. And then also too, something that I'm looking to do in the future is to probably eventually start my own property management company in North Carolina. And in order to do that, you need to be licensed. You can manage your own rental properties, but you can't manage other people's properties if you're not licensed. So I decided to get my real estate license in North Carolina as well. So yes, I'm licensed in 2 states.
Okay, so that doesn't hinder anyone who doesn't have a license or can't get a license. They can still be an investor of the same caliber or quality, correct?
Yes, I was just about to say that. So before I became a realtor, I was an investor first,
Okay.
And, if I had to choose between the two, I like real estate investing over being a realtor. Because realtor, you got to go out there, you got to grind, so, you sell a property, you can get a large commission check, but then after you sell that property, you get that commission check. That's it, and then once you spend that money, it's gone. But with real estate investing, once done properly and you purchase a property and you place a tenant in that property, because we all need housing, I don't care if you're rich, poor, whatever, we all need somewhere to live, so either you're going to be paying your own mortgage or you're going to pay somebody else's mortgage, So if you're renting, you're paying someone else's mortgage. And so, when you have that tenant in place and a good tenant, each month, the first of the month, it's like ka-ching, ka-ching, that's cash flow. You're getting cash going into your bank account, regardless if you get out your bed or do whatever, that money is coming in systematically, each and every month. And so just imagine, when you start to scale. So you got 1 property, now you got 2, you got 3, so you got 4. So then you can have like 10 checks coming in a month if you get 10, properties. And most of us, when we work at a job, we get no more than 4 paychecks a month. Some of us, if you get paid bi-weekly, you get 2 paychecks a month. Understand me? So imagine getting 10 or 15 paychecks a month. Think of it as a paycheck a month, so, and it's scalable. When you're working at a job, people might say, okay, are you a nurse? You make money? No. You can make decent money as a registered nurse. The most of my nursing career, I worked part-time. I worked 21 hours because I was doing my side gig, the real estate, while I was working as a nurse. And so, I didn't make what some of these nurses, were making, So, but I understood the principles of money management. I lived way below my means. And then that additional money, I would take it and I would save it. And I would invest in real estate, So this is just, it's important to learn about the money principles and what to do with your money. Don't think that you can't do this because, you're not a nurse or you're not making X amount of dollars. That wasn't the case with me, because I have yet to make, what some of these nurses make because I didn't work that amount of hours. And then, even if you are a nurse and you're working that amount of hours, you scale. I mean, how many hours can you possibly work in a day? Let's just say realistically, if someone, you work 16 hours, some nurses probably try and work 20 hours a day. But if you're getting paid by the hour, that's the most amount of money you can make in any one given day. You working 20 hours a day, whatever you get per hour, that's all, you're capped, you had a ceiling. But when you start thinking about business and real estate investing, it's unlimited, the potential,
Right. That's true.
I got to tell you, man, you're answering a lot of my questions, and you're answering a lot of my questions because I'm trying to head down that road as well. I want to sit back and do that. I know it's a lot of work. I don't want to portray out here that anything is easy. You got to be dedicated, stay committed, and stay consistent. And I understand that. So let me ask you one question, and then E probably can ask you something. This is on my mind. What has been your experience with the tenants? Collectively, what is your experience with them? Since you like to buy and hold, what has been your experience with the tenants?
I pretty much have about every experience you can think of. So when, I initially started investing, I would say I was like more on the soft side, compassionate. Not that I'm not compassionate now, but, these tenants will come and tell you all kind of stories, like.
You look compassionate with the ex? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I had to buy my daughter something for Christmas, and then I'm gonna be late with the rent, and I'll be like, okay, like I had to buy some groceries. I couldn't pay the rent, and I would be like, okay. And I had so many tenants get over on me. A lot of lost revenue because I was just being so kind. And like I said, when you first start, don't let, because you don't know everything, hinder you from starting. Because I didn't know everything. But as you continue along the process, you're going to learn. And so now 10 years later, I'm like putting systems in process. I have the screening process where before, I wasn't doing the kind of screening that I'm doing now.
Wow.
And so now, working with tenants, we have tenants, like if we have a rental that's available and, we'll advertise it and we'll have people calling like, okay, I need to move by tomorrow. I got the money right now. Can I move in tomorrow? And I'm like, no, you cannot. And you'll be tempted with that money, because they got the first month's rent, they got the security deposit. But you need to follow your system. So we have a screening process. And no, you can't move in tomorrow because we have a screening process. There's a rental application that you would need to complete. We look at your background. We look at your household income. We look at your rental history to see have there been any recent evictions. So, we have a screening process that we adhere to now. And so now since we've been doing that, it's been more favorable with the tenants. But you need to pretty much stand your grounds and follow your systems. And you feel bad when, things happen to people because we are all human. But, like when I experienced death in my family and my father passed away, I had to still pay my mortgage. They weren't like, okay, well, you don't have to pay your mortgage. So you as a real estate investor, you need not to be, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be compassionate, but you can't be too compassionate because these tenants will walk all over you and they will be in your property month after month telling you and promising you that, oh, I'm going to pay the rent. I'm going to pay the rent. I'm going to pay the rent. And then before you know it, they're in there 5 or 6 months and they still haven't paid the rent because you believe what they told you. So if you have your process where the rent is due on the 1st, is late after the 5th, we're going to charge you a 5% late fee. And then by the 10th of the month, we're going to start the eviction process. They'll get the message and see what's important. If buy your daughter that Christmas present or maintain a roof over their head, because we all need shelter and housing is a basic necessity. So, as time, like I said, progressed, I've learned how to deal with the tenants, and you have these professionals.
You got the balance there. You got the toughness now, but you still got a little love for them. Just a little.
Yes.
We'll do it to the 10th before we start the
Yeah. And then, and then there's times where you may have a long-standing tenant that's been with you for a long time. They always made, their rental payment on time. They have a little hiccup. You may be more willing to work with them, but you got someone new coming in the gate and, they're coming up with these excuses and games. No, don't let them.
Right. And quick question. Why did you choose to manage your properties yourself versus hiring a management company? I'm sure, the obvious reason would be that management fee, you know what I mean, that they're charged. But I know you have a lot of books that I've read, especially out-of-state investors. Now, if it's around the corner, they said you can manage that yourself, but you got to deal with them calling you at 3 a.m, they toilet broke or something to that effect. But if it's an out-of-state situation, it's recommended to hire a property management company. So why did you choose, or do you have a property management company? Like, what is your scenario?
Well, I've used property managers in the past, only for certain properties that were difficult. So we had a property was extremely difficult. We actually purchased this property sight unseen. We actually had some drug dealers living in there, so we had to rid them. So we needed somebody on the ground, to help us with this. So there are times when I have used a property management company, but my take on things is that I just feel that no one is going to take as much interest in your property as you. So, I choose to self-manage, and then when you're self-managing long distance, you need to have your infrastructure in place. And so, which we now do. So like when it comes to maintenance issues, I have a reputable plumber who I can just call and say, hey, 123 Main Street has this plumbing issue. Can you go take care of it? He's trustworthy. I have an HVAC guy. He'll go out there the same day or the next day. I have my electrician. So you start to have your industry people who you can rely on. And then as far as rent payments, We have it set up where tenants have to pay their rent electronically, So with me being in New York, they can still get their rent payment to me. And then also, too, like I said, we do frequently come and travel to North Carolina. So I'm not what you call an absentee landlord. So, for absentee landlords, your tenants will definitely, take advantage of you. And it's difficult to find a good property management company. I'm not saying they don't exist. But you also, even if you have a property management company, you need to manage them. And that's what they call asset management, because they can do all kind of things, with you living out of state. I had an investor that they lived in California. They was investing in North Carolina, and they had a property management company. And the property management company was telling that the property was vacant. And there was a tenant in place, and it was collecting that money and put it in their pocket, So they can do all kind of unscrupulous things. So even if you do have a property management company, you have to manage them. You need to still have a presence in that market. And how she found out that the property management company was stealing money from us, that she had came down here and there was a tenant in the property when the property was supposed to have been vacant. So there's a lot of ways that they can, I don't want to say rip you off, but they can get a lot of money from you. And as far as repairs and maintenance, they can say that certain things needed to be done, and they can up the price. And there's a lot of ways that they can really cut into your cash flow. So for me, we like to just be hands-on, involved in. And like I had mentioned previously, the reason for me getting my license in North Carolina is that one day I want to start my own property management company, and it will be to manage my properties where I have people working for me. And then too, I might even venture out and help others manage their properties. But property management is a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, like I said, I want to thank you again, because I truly appreciate you coming on, giving this information to people. And I don't want to hold you too long, but so in wrapping up, is first I want to just say one thing, and then I'll let you know where people can contact you. You give your information and people can contact you, get this information. If you want to share this information with people, because I'm going to push you to, because it sounds good to me. So, in wrapping up, what advice would you give anyone seeking to go down this path? Like, if you had to summarize the advice you would give someone, what would be the advice you would give them?
That's another great question. So I would have to say, I want to definitely tell people to go after your dream, So like I said, fear can be paralyzing. And, winning comes with a price. And you got to choose what price you're willing to pay. And so one thing I can tell you is that fear is expensive, but faith is priceless, So what you think about the longest is going to become the strongest. So your thoughts, it starts in your mind, your mindset. Understand me? So your thoughts is going to create your feelings, and your feelings is going to create your action, and your actions are going to create your results. So whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, get around like-minded people. So if it's real estate, start educating yourself, reading real estate books, listening to real estate podcasts. I was addicted to real estate podcasts, Bigger Pockets. I didn't miss an episode. So you need to start educating yourself and getting around these like-minded people. If you're looking to start your own business, get around business owners, start going to these events, so you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to get in the room with people that know more than you and have more than you, so that you can gain knowledge from them. So that's what I have to say to the audience. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's good. So that's real good. I like that. I seen a guy the other day that said, "Come from behind the computer." It's a real estate guy. All right, you done learned enough. You looked at enough podcasts. You studied enough. Get from behind the computer and come outside. And I had to look in the mirror. I said, I got to get outside, man. I got to stop this.
You got to start doing it, because you let that fear stop you, where I don't have the experience. I don't know enough. Understand me? But you're not going to learn until you get out there and you start doing. And with me actually going out there doing, when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to pick properties. I didn't know how to evaluate a market. I just started, because I had that burning desire in me that I wanted more for my life than what I was doing. So I just, it's scary. Don't get me wrong. But don't let that fear stop you. You just got to know. And that's when you're going to really start learning, when you start doing it. That's when you're going to learn.
Got you.
Good advice.
So, you have anything else, E?
I just want to thank her, for coming on. It's a pleasure meeting you. The information you shared today was valuable, very informative. I was actually taking mental notes. I'm going to go back to this and write some stuff down.
I'm going back to the draw personally because I don't want to lose a dime when I get in there. I'm going back to the draw principle.
Right. Yeah, but like I said, thanks again. It was a pleasure. And like I said, Bronx, stand up. We can't.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is there any way if people wanted to contact you, Bridget, they can?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll give my personal email address. It's B as in Bridget. My last name is Smith, which is SMITH 10466, because that's the Bronx zip code. At Verizon.net. So anyone can reach me, at my email. I do check them on a daily basis. And I want to thank two of you for, having this platform to help educate people like ourselves. And, I'm honored to just be a guest on your show today.
So I thank you. As again, Bridget, I want to say thank you for coming to the Building Legacies podcast. And it was truly, truly, truly my pleasure to have you on. Thank you.
Same here. Same here.
All right. Blessings.
All right. Thank you, guys.